Good morning.
Good morning.
Apparently no one recognizes me. I'm Trey, the drummer. Trey's my nickname. I'm named after my father and my grandfather, both of whom were preachers. We call my grandfather Ace, and I stopped by Ace's house one Sunday afternoon when he was between his morning sermon and his evening sermon, and he was sitting on his front porch smoking a cigarette, which he called sending up a burnt offering to the Lord. And I sat down with him and I said, "Ace, what are you going to preach about tonight?" He said, "About 20 minutes. That's about how much time I have. And as I was preparing for today, God thought it would be funny with such a limited amount of time to direct me to be in 5 different passages. So try to keep up. We're going to be looking at some stories that most, if not all of you, are familiar with. And my hope this morning is that you will try to forget everything you've heard about them before. It's likely that what you've heard is not correct. Jeff is excluded from that statement. We're going to start in Genesis 25. From there, we will move to Genesis 27. Then we'll be in Genesis 32. Then Hosea 12, then Matthew 4. I don't necessarily expect you to flip to all those places, but just so you know where we're headed. So, in Genesis chapter 25, we're going to be starting with 2 men who are what we consider our spiritual forefathers. The big names are Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. And this morning we're going to look a little bit at Isaac, but primarily at Joseph. That's who we'll be looking at mostly this morning. So I want to kind of set the stage for you. Isaac and his wife, after years of trying, have finally gotten pregnant. And when she gives birth, she's actually giving birth to twins. And the first boy that comes out, when he comes out, he's very hairy, and it's red hair. And they name him Esau, which means rough to the touch. When he comes out, they see that the second twin, the second son that's being born, is grabbing onto his ankle. And they name him Jacob, or Jacob, which means supplanter. It means one who will try to pull you down so that he can get ahead. That was his name. And in Genesis chapter 25, in verses 27 and 28, this just kind of gives you, this is just a quick 2-verse picture of the 2 boys and what they were like. It says, when the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a peaceful man, living in tents. Now Isaac, father, loved Esau because he had a taste for game. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Now I want to say a brief word to you about Israelite custom when it came to the sons. The firstborn son was initially guaranteed what was called the birthright. It was meaning that his portion of the inheritance, when dad died, would be double that of any of the other brothers. So if the other brothers were going to get $100,000, he was going to get $200,000. We find out that Jacob bribes Esau out of his birthright. Esau had been out hunting, not killing, because he was very hungry when he came back. And he asks Jacob for some soup, and Jacob says, "Yeah, I'll give you some soup for your birthright." And Esau says, "Okay, I'm really hungry." So Esau gave up his birthright for some soup. The second thing that I want to talk briefly about, besides the birthright, was the blessing. The blessing was something that the father would bestow upon one of his sons. And the father could choose who he was going to bestow the blessing upon. And the blessing, to put it simply, was the father saying, from now on, you're in charge and everybody has to do what you say. That's to put it simply. So, jump over to Genesis chapter 27. The boys are growing up. Isaiah's getting on in years. He's blind at this point, and he actually thinks that he's going to die soon. So he's laying in bed in his tent, and he calls Esau to him. And he says, "Esau, I want you to go out and hunt. I want you to kill an animal and prepare it for me. Prepare for me the meal that I like. Bring it to me so that I can bless you. And Esau leaves to do this. Well, Isaac's wife overhears this, and Joseph, being her favorite son, she says, I want Joseph to get the blessing. So she comes up with a plan. What they're going to do while Esau is gone is they're going to kill 2 lambs. They're going to prepare the meal that Isaiah requested. Then they're going to take the skins from the lambs and they're going to put them on Jacob, so that when the blind father reaches out to touch the son that he loves, he will think it is in fact Esau. That's where we find ourselves in Genesis chapter 27, verses 18 and 19. Jacob enters and he says, my father. And Isaac says, who are you, my son? Jacob says, I am Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you told me. Get up, please. Sit and eat my game, that you may bless me. Now note, when the father asks, who are you? Jacob pretends that he is the one that the father loves, so that he can get what he wants. And I'm going to read to you the blessing that Isaac bestows upon Jacob, just so you can kind of hear what it sounded like and get a glimpse into its significance. We find this in Genesis chapter 27. I'm going to read verses 28 and 29. The blessing that Isaac bestows on Jacob, thinking it's Esau. Now may God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth, and an abundance of grain and new wine. May peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master of your brothers. And may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you. Esau does find out about this. He is none too happy. And there is an extreme falling out between the brothers, and they go their separate ways. Now we're going to jump ahead 14 years to Genesis chapter 32. At this point, Jacob has become a rich man. He has tons of possessions and livestock. He's got servants. His servants have children, which means he's got more servants on the way. He's got 2 wives. Not a good idea. Don't follow his example on that one. He's got his first wife, Leah, that is his second favorite. And then the second wife he married, Rebecca, which is his favorite. He's got a son by both of them. But the son of Rebecca, Joseph, is his favorite son. Well, they are traveling. They're relocating. And as they're relocating, Jacob finds out that waiting for him is his brother with 400 men. Jacob, in case you didn't pick up on this, is kind of a sissy. He's not pleased with the prospect of facing his brother, let alone his brother and 400 men. So Jacob comes up with a really, really manly idea. I'm going to put the women and children out in front of me. He decides he's going to set up these waves of people and possessions. First it's going to be possessions, and it's going to be the servants and their children. They're going first. And either Esau will accept that bribe or he'll kill them. And if he does, well, I'll have a second wave of people and possessions. The first wife, that's my second favorite, and her kids can go there, and some more possessions. And if Esau ends up killing them, well, it's just going to be me and Rebecca and Joseph, and maybe we'll have a chance to get away. That's his manly plan. This is one of the fathers of our faith, by the way. So Jacob, he comes to this stream. It's the night before this encounter is going to take place, and he sends everyone ahead of him because he just wants to be alone. And this is where we find him in Genesis chapter 32. We find him in the wilderness, in the dark, and alone. And I'm going to read to you verses 24 through 28. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. And when he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of his thigh. So the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. And the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So the man said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And the man said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob,